the Republicans, or basically Richard Nixon, John McCain, JFK, did a lot of things. Like, for instance, they would basically steal a ship, and then they would take a thing of paint, and they'd go up to the front after they stole the ship, and they would put stuff like RMS, and that's whatever. Basically, and paint over my LS. All the ships had LS, Lusitania, or something like that. And they would take back paint and paint over the things, and they put, and not very 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 flattering. Like you could tell that it was just brushed on basically, or paint rolled on at the last second. They would basically put RMS Lusitania, and they would say Lusitania, and you could tell that the RMS was basically just quickly brushed on or something like that. And then they would take a picture of it, and that stood for Republicans Men's Ship, basically, or something like that. And it was just a bunch of lies and stuff. And then they would hit it with a torpedo and sink it. Anyway, whatever. I don't really care. And then they posted the picture inside the papers and stuff like that, saying that like the Republicans were some group or something, but they really weren't more than they were pirates and thieves. And basically people that basically pretty much raped and killed and did a bunch of horrible things and sank a bunch of ships that they didn't really own or belong to or have, more than they could actually just like have a torpedo boat that would actually just like shoot holes in it, and basically would rape people or whatever. I think what they would do is go on board on the crew and say, we either give us your women, have sex with us, or else we will torpedo you. And the joke was, of course, that we're going to torpedo you anyway. And the point was they torpedoed them, and then they torpedoed them. Anyway, whatever, I don't really know that much. It was a bunch of sick fucking pieces of shit that ran around in a bunch of White Star submarines and basically thought they could do anything, get away with anything. And they couldn't, and it turned really bad for them. And I don't really care what everyone else did to them, but it wasn't very, very fun or very nice when people found out exactly how many people they had actually killed. So, anyway, and there was no paying back that stain of blood. But basically people found out that pretty much it was the White submarines coming from Pearl Harbor that were actually doing it. So they found them. Anyway, they had just pretty much scribbled over a bunch of maps and recopied the maps or reprinted the maps on a copier without Pearl Harbor being on it, and actually took down all the planes that would fly to Pearl Harbor. They went to all the different places and basically took Pearl Harbor off all the travel plans, and also removed Pearl Harbor from all the maps, and basically tried to turn Pearl Harbor into a secret pirate cove or base. And pretty much people were like, there used to be Pearl Harbor. Where? No one flies to Pearl Harbor anymore? And somewhere around 1940, 1950, people started asking, what happened to Pearl Harbor? It's not on any maps. And planes used to fly there all the time. I have people that live in Pearl Harbor. My family lives there. And so no mail went to Pearl Harbor. No mail came from Pearl Harbor. There was no communication with Pearl Harbor for about 20 or 30 years. Or 5 years. Pretty much. So basically JFK, John McCain, Richard Nixon, and all of them tried to remove Pearl Harbor from existence pretty much and try to pretend like it wasn't actually there. But so the public found, and then they were blowing up all these ships and blah, 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 saying that it was Germany or something that was doing it. It was actually all the submarines in Pearl Harbor. But Germans knew, but Pearl Harbor was still on all the Germany maps and all the real maps of all the real countries. Like, they knew that Pearl Harbor existed and that it was there. But the public, for a minute there, didn't know. Like, and even the public was like, "Why to Pearl Harbor? Where'd it go? It used to be on the maps. We used to be able to travel there. My mail, if you mailed to Pearl Harbor, it would be sent, return to sender, your address not found, or something like that, or no longer lives there." Although a lot of people died in Pearl Harbor, and basically Pearl Harbor was like the city of death. And they were actually bringing people in and then killing them in Pearl Harbor. Anybody that went to Pearl Harbor between 1940 and 19 whatever, basically they were shot and killed. And pretty much Pearl Harbor was the Pirate Cove. And basically it was like the land of the dead or whatever, where basically there's a drug opium thing and a bunch of stuff, and basically a bunch of about 5,000 or 15,000 or 30,000 or a couple hundred, maybe 500,000 people went to Pearl Harbor and then never came home. Anyway, and like I said, lots of people who had family there would mail, and it'd be return to sender or whatever, address not found or unable to deliver mail. And it was basically JFK, Richard Nixon pretty much turning Pearl Harbor into the island of the dead. And basically they would do films and stuff, and basically ran it like it was their own private little kingdom. And a lot of people were even saying, "Well, to Pearl Harbor, we don't see it in the news. We don't see it on the newspaper. There's no newspaper." People used to get paper. There are a lot of people that had family in Pearl Harbor, and they're like, "We can't talk to our family anymore." And eventually, finally, someone sent up a couple of ships there, or Germany went there, on behalf of of some family members, and found out a lot of things. Anyway. And John McCain and Richard Nixon was using it for where they would take their pirate booty and offload it. And anyway, basically a lot of bad stuff, pretty much responsible. And that's John McCain, Richard Nixon, and basically between 1940 and 1960 or stuff, they ran wild. It's basically meant that they raped a lot of women, did a lot of cocaine, a lot of methamphetamine, a lot of other stuff. Anyway, I don't really care. You can find this all out for yourself. But basically everything and then they just basically taught a different history than what was real. And I don't really give a fuck. But basically about 15,000 or 150,000 or 700,000 people that went to Pearl Harbor never came home. Anyway, I don't know. They gave them radiation poisoning or radiation sickness, or said there was radiation. I don't really know what they were doing. And they were even getting people to hire to go to work. And they would say you're working in France, but you would actually go work in Pearl Harbor. And they were building torpedoes and all kinds of other stuff, and basically and they were turning it into a pirate island. And pretty much Richard Nixon, John McCain, and a bunch of senators were basically having the time of their life doing whatever they wanted in Pearl Harbor between 1940 and 1960 or something, or 1950 and 1960. Or something, where you couldn't mail to Pearl Harbor, you couldn't make a phone call to Pearl Harbor, you couldn't travel there, you couldn't get anyone to even go there. It was like it didn't exist. Except to the Chinese, the Japanese, and also the Germans, who knew that it was there. Anyway, I don't really know. I don't care. But, there's a lot of stuff that happened. Anyway, they were trying to say it was Germany attacking all these submarines and the wolf pack. But then later on you see these people say, oh, well, yeah, we were like a wolf pack. And like I said, a wolf is basically what somebody had seen a wolf do one time is a wolf will grab the female bitch with his mouth and like hold her neck while he's fucking her. And that's what that was based on. That's why they called them the wolf pack, because they thought that was a cool thing, or a show of dominance. And that's what all that is based upon. They were really, really high. Anyway, yeah. And I had submarines that they had stolen.